Well, hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another of our In Conversation series. And we're on the research trail again today, but on the real cutting edge of research methodologies. I'm delighted to be joined by Alex Frangi, who is a professor in computational medicine at Leeds University. Alex, thanks so much for joining us. We start, as we always do on these, as I know people watching, listening to this are interested. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today.
So thank you, Richard. So my name is Alex, and I work at the University of Leeds. I'm an engineer by training, but I'm working really at the interface between engineering and medicine. So I work in the School of Computing, but also in the School of Medicine in Leeds, trying to follow up on the footsteps of John Fisher, who did quite a lot of work in biomedical engineering. I work more in cardiovascular domain, and in particular in what is called computational medicine, which is essentially for people who come from an engineering background is very simple. Is using principles of engineering, physics, mathematics, computer science into the way we think about devices and medical products in general, and try to develop more principled approaches to do that are more quantitative, and hopefully that can be useful for improving the devices, but also to generate better evidence for instance, regulatory process.
Well, that's great. That's a wonderfully lucid way of explaining computational medicine. That's great. John Fisher, great friend of ours. I worked a lot with John. So today, Alex, we're going to talk about, it was an intriguing concept, something I know you're passionate about and are really at the forefront of. Is something called in silico trials. Tell us what they are.
So first of all, perhaps to demystify a bit the word, why we call it in silico. It's about it's all about computations in this case, but we call it in silico as a counterpart of in vitro, in vivo, in silico. And the idea is that we have, when we do regulatory, we want to generate regulatory evidence for safety and efficacy. We normally have multiple sources of evidence that we can go for to prove, which effectively all the regulations say, that is that the device needs to be safe. And of course, in order to be able to sell, it needs to be efficacious as well. So you can do, as we all know, we can do this evaluation in bench. We can do this evaluation in animal models or in cellular, preparations. We can do this as well in humans. And what we would like to think is that with in silico approaches or computational approaches, what we can generate is a virtual scenario where to test devices, like an animal is a model, while a computational model is a model as well, but with all the probably obvious advantages of a computational approach in terms of reducing the costs. Experiments are expensive, reducing the potential harm to humans that conventional trials have, and reducing also the compromising of welfare of animals that animal experiments have. So this is the vision. The idea is, can we create virtual populations? And we can talk in a moment how we can do that. But imagine we will be able to create virtual populations of humans. In reality, don't imagine this as a computational model of the whole person, but it's more about the particular organ or particular part of the system that we are interested in. Very much like in an animal model, which is not an exact replica of a human, but it's a replica to whatever aspects we are interested in the physiology or the biology at that point. So create these virtual populations, and then also create virtual interventions. So for instance, how we implant a device, or how is the action of a particular drug into that organism, or for instance, it can also be diagnostic devices like an imaging system. Like if I have a particular anatomical model of the organ of interest, how would this new imaging technique allow me to see parts of that organism? What would be the minimum resolution, the minimum feature that I will be able to detect given the resolution of my system, and so on. So the idea is that through computations, what we can do is generate models of the population and its variability, model of the intervention and the uncertainties that we have, and also potentially model the outcomes as well through primarily through either accessing primary computational endpoints that we know can be related to clinical endpoints, or also potentially through data analytics. All of these approaches together is what has created this corpus of knowledge that we understand as in silico trials, and fundamentally comes from the conviction that we need to be thinking new ways about improving the life cycle of products in the medical products domain. It's not cost effective. I don't think it's sustainable that we continue to need 7-8 years to develop a new technology. Then we need several years, 5 years to get a first trial and the first results, and then follow-ups for another 5 or 6. By the time you know everything about that device, the technology has moved on miles, and that also is making the devices and the technologies expensive, is making the ability of patients to benefit from those technologies delayed unnecessarily, and is also ultimately all of that is impairing our ability to provide a better care to patients at a sustainable cost, and has impacts for our healthcare system, of course. So industry is already working on this for a number of years in more experimental way. The academia has been working in this area for many decades now. I was looking the other day that the first very explicit references to these technologies of the academic community are back to 2005. So, and since then there has been an enormous amount of funding from the European Union, from funders in the UK, that have allowed these technologies to maturate and be where it is at the moment. But what we need now is to give this final push of raising the awareness in regulators about the fact that there is this is a reliable source of evidence, but also work with them in developing new processes for regulatory approval that rely on this sort of technology.
That's great, Alex. I mean, you mentioned, so it's interesting. It has that heritage. It's been the idea has been around a while. You mentioned your particular interest has been in cardiovascular medicine. I've seen some of the work you've done. It kind of makes sense to me in a kind of fluid sort of dynamics where you're looking at fluid flows. Are there particular types of technology that suit themselves to the in silico approach, or is it completely generalizable?
I mean, I think as a concept is completely general, and it's not only for devices but also for drugs. So there is work, for instance, by Blanca Rodriguez in Oxford, where she's applying these sort of techniques more in the context of cardiotoxicity of drugs. And there is people, for instance, in King's College in London that are and in Leeds that are working in electrophysiology. So can you use these techniques to understand pacing devices? There are people also working in these techniques in the musculoskeletal domain, so utilizing this for bone implants. There is, for instance, I know of companies, large device manufacturers that have been already utilizing these technologies in the context of FDA approval. So, for instance, related to the work of Tim Denison in Oxford that works in neurotechnologies, if you are developing leads for Parkinson, and you want to understand, for instance, the heating effect of those leads in the brain tissue and the potential damage, it's very difficult for ethical reasons to be able to do that experimentally. But there are animals of tissue heating that have been validated in animal models, and then there has been extrapolations to human. And that sort of evidence has been utilized in regulatory dossiers with FDA. And it's interesting because you can do, talking to Tim in Oxford, he was mentioning to me that they did validations in almost 1 million different configurations of the electrodes, which is more than devices have been ever implanted in that area in the population. So you can do really, really thorough testing in scenarios which are perhaps very unlikely, but possible. And with that sort of increase the confidence that we have on the amount of testing we have done.
That's Alex. That is really fascinating stuff, and the applications and the potential of this is apparent. That's probably not the place to go into this in too much detail. People's heads will explode. But I know a lot of people watching and listening to this will be very keen to find out more, and I know you're really keen to hear from people in the space about the potential applications and the benefits of this. What's the best thing people can do to find out some more?
So, Richard, one thing we are trying to develop at the moment is a community where people can come, be part, ask questions, contribute their views, help to shape this field. And this is part of a network that is funded by Innovate UK and with the support of the Knowledge Transfer Network, KTN. So we did that in a Slack workspace. So the address is insilicouk.slack.com. And I will provide you also the link so that we can put it together with the webinar. And people are also, are welcome then to reach out to me and bring them in that space. One of the things we are trying to do at the moment is to create a survey for what are the views of the community. So we have already over 250 people in that Slack workspace, and we have people from industry, from academia, some clinicians. We have people from various regulatory agencies, both companies that are based in the UK or companies that are abroad but operate in the UK and they're interested in the regulatory landscape. But also not only medical devices companies or medical products companies, there is pharma, there is devices there as well, but also companies which are part of the supply chain. And we are very, very interested to understand other type of sectors that could help to drive this forward. So insilicouk.slack.com and then reach out to the community.
That's great, Alex. Thanks so much. So that'll be part of this package. People, if you're watching and listening to this now, you'll see it in the links to it. And we're also going to show you a great paper that Alex did with our friends at the Royal Academy of Engineering as well, which gives some really useful background. Alex, this is really exciting. One of the most exciting things we've talked about in this series. So we'll come back and do this again and see how progress is, and we'll do our best to encourage you, help you grow that community. Alex Frangi, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Richard.